Hello everybody, this is part 30 of Sci-Fi Read Aloud. We are going to finish chapter 16 of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea today. As we walked, I thought the light of our Runcorp apparatus could not fail to draw some inhabitant from its dark couch. But if they did approach us, they at least kept at a respectful distance from the hunters. Several times I saw Captain Nemo stop, put his gun to his shoulder, and after some moments drop it and walk on. At last, after about 4 hours, this marvelous excursion came to an end. A wall of superb rocks in an imposing mass rose before us, a heap of gigantic blocks, an enormous, steep granite shore, forming dark grottos, but which presented no practicable slope, was at the prop of the island of Crespo. It was the Earth. Captain Nemo stopped suddenly. A gesture of his brought us to a halt, and however desirous I might be to scale the wall, I was obliged to stop. Here ended Captain Nemo's domains, and he would not go beyond them. Further on was a portion of the globe he might not trample upon. The return began. Captain Nemo had returned to the head of his little band, directing their course without hesitation. I thought we were not following the same road to return to the Nautilus. The new road was very steep, and consequently very painful. We approached the surface of the sea rapidly, but this return to the upper strata was not so sudden as to cause relief from the pressure too rapidly, which might have produced serious disorder in our organization and brought on internal lesions so fatal to divers. Very soon, light reappeared and grew, and the sun being low on the horizon, the refraction edged the different objects with a spectral ring. At 10 yards and a half deep, we walked amid a shoal of little fishes of all kinds, more numerous than the birds of the air, and also more agile, but no aquatic game worthy of a shot had yet met our gaze. When at that moment, I saw the captain shoulder his gun quickly and follow a moving object into the shrubs. He fired. I heard a slight hissing, and a creature fell stunned at some distance from us. It was a magnificent sea otter, an anhydrus, the only exclusively marine quadruped. This otter was 5 feet long and must have been very valuable. Its skin, chestnut brown above and silvery underneath, would have made one of those beautiful furs so sought after in the Russian and Chinese markets. The fineness and luster of its coat would certainly fetch 80. I admired this curious mammal, with its rounded head ornamented with short ears, its round eyes, and white whiskers like those of a cat, with webbed feet and nails and a tufted tail. This precious animal, hunted and tracked by fishermen, has now become very rare and taken refuge chiefly in the northern parts of the Pacific, or probably its race would soon become extinct. Captain Nemo's companion took the beast, threw it over his shoulder, and we continued our journey. For 1 hour, a plain of sand lay stretched before us. Sometimes it rose to within 2 yards, and some inches to the surface of the water. I then saw our image clearly reflected, drawn inversely, and above us appeared an identical group reflecting our movements and our actions. In a word, like us in every point, except that they walked with their heads downward and their feet in the air. Another effect I noticed, which was the passage of thick clouds, which formed and vanished rapidly. But on reflection, I understood that these seeming clouds were due to the varying thickness of the reeds at the bottom, and I could even see the fleecy foam which their broken tops multiplied on the water, and the shadows of large birds passing over our head, whose rapid flight I could discern on the surface of the sea. On this occasion, I was witness to one of the finest gunshots which ever made the nerves of a hunter thrill. A large bird of great breadth of wing, clearly visible, approached, hovering over us. Captain Nemo's companion shouldered his gun and fired. Shouldered his gun and fired when it was only a few yards above the waves. The creature fell stunned, and the force of its fall brought it within reach of the dexterous hunter's grasp. It was an albatross of the finest kind. Our march had not yet been interrupted by this incident. For 2 hours we followed these sandy plains, then fields of algae, very disagreeable to cross. Candidly, I could do no more when I saw a glimmer of light, which for a half-mile broke the darkness of the waters. It was the lantern of the Nautilus. Before 20 minutes were over, we should be on board, and I shall be able to breathe with ease, for it seemed that my reservoir supplied air very deficient in oxygen. But I did not reckon on an accidental meeting, which delayed our arrival for some time. I had remained some steps behind when I presently saw Captain Nemo coming hurriedly toward me. With his strong hand, he bent me to the ground, his companion doing the same to Conseil. At first, I knew not what to think of this sudden attack, but I was soon reassured by seeing the captain lie down beside me and remain immovable. I was stretched on the ground, just under shelter of a bush of algae, when, raising my head, I saw some enormous mass casting phosphorescent gleams pass blusteringly by. My blood froze in my veins as I recognized 2 formidable sharks which threatened us. It was a couple of tintoreas, terrible creatures with enormous tails and dull, glassy stares. The phosphorescent matter ejected from holes pierced around the muzzle. Monstrous brutes, which would not crush a whole man in their iron jaws. I did not know whether Conseil stopped to classify them. For my part, I noticed their silver bellies, and in their huge mouths bristling with teeth, from a very unscientific point of view, and more as a possible victim than as a naturalist. Happily, the voracious creatures do not see well. They passed without seeing us, and, brushing us with their brownish fins, and we escaped by miracle from a danger certainly greater than meeting a tiger full face in the forest. Half an hour later, guided by the electric light, we reached the Nautilus. The outside door had been left open, and Captain Nemo closed it as soon as we had entered the first cell. He then pressed a knob. I heard the pumps working in the midst of the vessel. I felt the water sinking from around me, and in a few moments the cell was entirely empty. The inside door then opened, and I was entered the vestry. There our diving dress was taken off, not without some trouble, and, fairly worn out from want of food and sleep, I returned to my room in great wonder at this surprising excursion at the bottom of the sea. Thank you, everybody. We will be back next week with more of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.